beer, it's good for you.
Hello and welcome to the video. Within this video I'm sharing a tried and tested recipe for a lower ABV, low calorie and low carb New England IPA that uses superstar hops for big flavour and aroma without needing the higher gravity or residual sweetness. This recipe also does not contain lactose and uses strategic ingredients to keep the body soft and juicy while maintaining low fermentables. So let's get started. Let's make a start with a look at this recipe's vital statistics. As you can see, this recipe offers an approximation of 4.5 ABV, making it very much a session New England IPA. The BU-GU ratio shown, almost at the bottom, shows the relationship between bitterness and alcohol at 0.44, which offers a very easy drinking beer. The recipe can be found in full within the video's description area, which is underneath the video window when viewed on the desktop computer. You will also find a link there to the full recipe on Brewfather, which can be used free of charge with some restrictions. As always, I strongly suggest that you fully convert the recipe before ordering in your ingredients so that you're actually brewing the recipe as intended. I also strongly suggest that you brew this recipe as is the very first time rather than tweaking it, as tweaks are already in place to bring this recipe into very good shape. Otherwise the work that I have done is going to be a bit of a waste of time. I have an easy guide to recipe conversion using Brewfather on my channel as shown on screen now. Within this video this recipe is being brewed using a Brewzilla Gen 4 brewing system to the volume of 10 litres or 2.64 US liquid gallons, but as part of the conversion process this can of course be scaled and shaped to suit your own brewing system and volume requirements. Shown on screen is the water profile that I recommend for using with this recipe, which is a New England IPA profile that works well to reduce hop bitterness into a smoother and less dry state compared to a regular IPA profile. Using the right water profile is very important, of course. After all, beer is mostly water and its balance is vital so that it suits the beer that you are brewing. Naturally, this water profile is just one way to go here though. If you do have a different profile that you really enjoy with this kind of beer style, then go with that, but just bear in mind that this recipe was written with this profile in mind, and it has been tweaked according to the results obtained whilst using this water profile. Brewfather has extremely good documentation on how to use the software to make the necessary water changes too, which makes the whole process incredibly easy. I suggest that all brewers, irrespective of experience, start treating their water as soon as possible for the very best of end results. You may well be surprised how easy this actually is. Here you can see me using a drill powered mash stirrer for this process, which makes it very easy to eliminate any clumps and ensure that every grain is wet. If you're using a mash paddle for this process, then I strongly recommend adding the grain gradually while stirring continuously. This will give you the most even mix and avoid dry spots or clumps. On screen you'll now see the mash profile I recommend for use with this recipe. The first mash set is set at 65 degrees Celsius or 149 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a sweet spot that strikes a balance between fermentable and unfermentable sugars. This step plays a key role in shaping this beer's body, residual sweetness and overall alcohol content. The end result here is a beer that's crisp and clean, with just enough body to give it character, making it easy to drink and right in line with the style we're aiming for along with its lower ABV, carbs and calories. Okay, let's now start the mash and look at our fermentables. Firstly, we have Pilsner malt at 67%. This malt offers a clean light base and notably fewer unfermentables compared to quality pale malts like Maris Otter, hence why it is a natural choice for a recipe such as this one, where fewer calories are desired. Then at 13% we have oat malt, which adds haze, mouthfeel and body without raising residual sugar significantly. At 10% we then have wheat malt, which further supports the haze as well as adding creaminess and head retention. At 5% we have chip malt, which is lightly germinated barley. This can also be known as lightly kiln malt, high protein malt or green malt. Speak to your homebrew store about this one if in doubt. This very useful malt further enhances foam and perceived body with little impact on residual sugar, hence its usefulness in this recipe. Then for our final 5% of the fermentables we have dextrose, also known as corn sugar or fruit sugar. This sugar is 100% fermentable, so this boosts our ABV without increasing carbs or body. This fermentable is added during the boil, so I'll mention this later. So in short, this bill works very well because it's minimal on residual sugars due to the lack of lactose and crystal malts. The oats and wheat give body and haze whilst keeping mouthfeel despite the low ABV, and this is boosted further by the dextrose without adding in anything unwanted. It was then time to raise the grain basket and perform the sparge. I know that some homebrewers see this as a skippable step, but in my opinion this is a big mistake. Firstly, you're going to lose a percentage of your grain sugars, which is a total waste. Also, your efficiency is going to drop because of this, and you will also lose a level of control over your gravity. Plus, for many, the end beer will also take a taste hit. I have a video that goes into much more detail on the pros and cons here too, if you're looking for fuller information. Let's now look at the boil stage. This recipe has a modern boil time of 30 minutes, and as you can see, the first hops are added as whirlpool additions. So the first step after the 30-minute boil is to cool things down to the whirlpool temperatures. For this I use my jaded brewing immersion chiller, which makes very fast work of getting the first cooling done. Usually I will give it a stir during this part to assist the cooling, but with this brew I opted to simply run the pump with the recirculation arm in place, as you can see. It worked very well and the cooling was complete in little over 1 minute. The first step after at temperature was to add and stir in the dextrose. This temperature is high enough to sanitize the dextrose but will not caramelize or scorch it. Be sure to give it a really good stir to help it on its way to being dissolved and amalgamated with the rest of the brew. It was then time to add the whirlpool hops and give those a good stir in too. Let's now take a look at what this hop pairing will offer us from Brew 1, Citra and Mosaic. First of all, let's look at Brew 1, shown here in orange. Unlike our other hops, Brew 1 doesn't go extreme in any one area, but it does shine in the tropical fruit area and brings brightly dominant and juicy pineapple as well as mango, melon and passion fruit, as well as its primary notes from tropical fruit. Also in the forefront here are peach and apricot stone fruits. I really love and recommend Brew 1 hops as they were very fruity and smooth, but I know that some of you had an issue in obtaining these for one of my other recent recipes, which was a pity. However, there are some good subs available. Whilst these will not be the same, they will work well with this recipe. So if you cannot obtain Brew 1 in no particular order, I would choose between El Dorado, Galaxy or Azaka. Next we have Citra, shown here in blue, which is well known to excel in its citrus and tropical fruit qualities. You will enjoy primary notes of lime, grapefruit, zesty orange, passion fruit, mango and lychee, with secondary notes of pineapple, gooseberry, melon and tropical bubblegum. Last but by no means least, we have Mosaic, shown here on our chart in green. You can see Mosaic excels in the berry area, but is also strong in resin, pine and grassy elements, offering primary notes of blueberry, mango and tangerine, along with secondary notes of pine, along with herbal and floral elements. When you put these three hops together, you have a tropical bomb that is juicy, high in citrus, stone fruit and sweet tropical fruit, along with balanced undertones of light dank and pine. You can expect strong pineapple, mango, citrus peel and blueberry, and soft dank edges all tied together in a juicy smooth package. This combo is ideal for chasing aromatic intensity with lush mouthfeel and drinkability, which makes it a great combo for hiding reality that this is, in factual fact, a lower ABV Carbs and Calories beer for your taste buds. Whilst I was waiting for the whirlpool timer, I got busy in preparing my clean fermentation vessel with acid-based sanitizer. It is important to do this just before you're transferred to avoid problems later on. Another important area of preparation which I took care of during the boil was in regards to my counterflow chiller, which I will use for cooling after the whirlpool. It is vital to sanitize by running boiling hot water through it for a couple of minutes. It was then time for transfer and pitch. My chosen yeast for this one is Verdant IPA yeast, as it simply fits this recipe the best in my testing, with its tropical fruit flavours which further enhance the citrus side of this beer. It also assists further by offering a perceived extra slight sweetness that helps balance this one, along with promoting a more rounded body. This is not to say that other yeasts will not work well with this recipe, because it will, but I would recommend Verdant for the best of results. For this recipe I recommend a fermentation temperature of 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Please do not use pressure in this fermentation for at least the first 3 to 4 days, otherwise you will either lower or completely negate the desired esters from your yeast. After this point you can let the pressure naturally rise up until you are at no more than 1 bar or 14.5 psi. Pressure is a great tool for brewers, but any more than this can start to really affect your yeast's health. The very next step is concerning the dry hop additions, which are now shown on screen. Add your dry hops when you are between 5 to 10 gravity points away from your predicted final gravity. I have tried all methods of dry hopping, but frankly nothing so far has had as good results, and there is no need to buy a book either. The very most important thing here is to keep things clean and sanitary, so here is a guide to doing that in a way that has never failed me so far in hundreds of brews. In this example I'm going to use a hop sock, but the procedure is similar with other container types. This starts with boiling the bag. I strongly recommend doing this no matter if the bag has been previously used and cleaned, or if it's a brand new one straight out of the packaging. I then add this bag into a clean container and add sanitizer as a further safeguard. This will be the same container that I used to load the hops into. After this point I then wash and sanitize my hands, and this is repeated if I need to touch the bag after touching anything that is not clean and sanitary. These are very important steps to avoid contamination, which is all too common when it comes to homebrewers making IPAs because of this step. I then carefully add the dry hops with the bag lining the container, being sure that nothing touches the bag except for the hops. Once you have loaded all of your hops into the bag, then be sure to tie a nice strong knot to keep all of the hops contained. This loosely fitting hop bag, so there is room to expand, can now be added into your fermenter. In terms of contact time, 3 days is usually going to be plenty, but 5 days is fine too. I would avoid times more than a week to avoid grassy off flavours though. Let's now take a look at the finished beer, starting with the pour, and I will then go through my own personal tasting notes. You can see that the pour is a hazy golden colour, but once in the glass the end beer is a golden orange. What you see on screen is actually a bit darker than the reality. In actual fact, the camera sometimes lies. Personally, I have not used any fining agents here to clear this one up, as this is designed to be a hazy beer, but that is of course entirely up to you. This beer has been under 12 psi of pressure, which is 0.83 bars. I am using this pressure for serving too. The example of this beer that you see here is around the 3-week point from kegging, and this beer is conditioned extremely well, flavour-wise, in this time. However, this recipe can be enjoyed very much as soon as less than a week from kegging, as long as you have enough carbonation. Let's now go through my tasting notes, starting with aroma. The aroma found here is literally screaming citrus, pineapple and mango. Blueberry is also present as a mid-note, according to my nose. Flavour. Nice and juicy on entry with good mouthfeel that is laced with much pineapple, mango and citrus fruit. Further back you will also find lime, grapefruit, orange, passion fruit and lychee, along with various other tropical fruit that keep you guessing. If you don't rush this one, you'll also find a large array of other fruit, including berries too, as you'll work your way down the glass. This one also has a very rounded and smooth and easy finish, which ultimately makes it have high drinkability. Also, because of the low ABV, this is more than sessionable, and there's no guilty feeling due to its reduced carbs and calories too. Here are my notes for this one. This is a very flavourful beer, but temperature will play a major role here, as always, when it comes to how much flavour you will pick up. So be sure not to drink this one below 6 degrees Celsius or 43 degrees Fahrenheit, but temperatures as high as 10 Celsius or 50 Fahrenheit will averagely give you a much better taste experience. When I served this beer to tasters at the higher range of this temperature, they did not realise that this was not a regular New England IPA strength, and enjoyed it much more than at lower temperatures. My final impression here is that this is a low calorie, low carb and lower ABV New England IPA that does the style and your belly justice without any compromise. So there you have it. Do let myself and the community know what you think of this video, and later on, once you have brewed this recipe, your own tasting notes. It is always appreciated to have feedback. I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!